welcome to my channel Forever Celeb. Priscilla Presley, a name that has captivated the world's attention for over 6 decades. She has stood at the very heart of the greatest love story American music has ever known. The young girl who captured the king's heart, the steadfast woman who saved his empire, the devoted mother who raised his only child. To the outside world, beyond the gates of Graceland, she is an icon, timeless, untouchable, forever bathed in the golden glow of legend and myth. Yet behind that luminous image lies a truth that the cameras have never fully revealed. At 80 years old, Priscilla Presley has endured the unimaginable. She has outlived her husband, her only daughter, and her grandson. She has battled relentless legal challenges to protect a legacy she painstakingly built with her own hands. She has faced public scrutiny that at times morphed into cruelty aimed at her very appearance. And each morning, she wakes in a house filled with shadows, carrying a grief so profound that neither fame, nor fortune, nor 6 decades of survival can ever fully lift its weight. This is not a fairy tale. This is what remains after the fairy tale ends. Before we begin, if Elvis Presley's music ever touched your soul, please leave a like for the woman who made sure the world never had to say goodbye. Priscilla was not born into royalty. She was born into restlessness. Priscilla Ann Wagner entered the world on May 24, 1945, in Brooklyn, New York, the daughter of a Navy pilot whose life was a constant whirlwind of orders and relocations, never a place to truly call home. When her father, James Wagner, tragically died in a plane crash just before her first birthday, the very ground beneath her family shifted, a force that would shape her entire life. Her mother, Anne, remarried another military man, Paul Beaulieu, and the family moved tirelessly, from base to base, city to city, country to country, learning early that stability was fleeting, that the places you loved would be left behind, and that you must become whoever the next town demanded. By the time she was 14, the family had landed in Wiesbaden, Germany, a quiet American military enclave, where a chance party invitation would alter the course of her life forever. There, she met Elvis Presley, 24 years old, already an American icon, serving his military duty abroad. That night, he looked at Priscilla with a rare intensity, as if she were the only person in the room worth noticing. She was just 14. He was 10 years older, impossibly famous, and utterly magnetic. From that moment on, he never let go. What followed was a courtship that her parents greeted with understandable wariness. A famous man, far older, relentlessly pursuing their teenage daughter with a persistence only fame could fuel and scrutiny rarely allowed. Elvis called. Elvis wrote. He convinced her parents to let her move to Memphis to finish high school near Graceland. Living under his roof, under the promise of propriety, was a situation of profound imbalance. A young girl still forming her sense of self, pulled into the orbit of a man already mythologized, before she had the chance to discover who she was. And yet, Priscilla loved him. Not the myth. Not the sequined superstar the world screamed for. She loved the man she saw at 3 a.m., restless, reading, sitting at a piano playing hymns no one asked for. She loved the Elvis that belonged to no one else. They married on May 1, 1967, at the Aladdin Hotel in Las Vegas. She was 21. The dress was white. The photographs perfect. The world declared it a fairy tale. 9 months later, their daughter Lisa Marie was born. For a brief, luminous season, Graceland felt like a home, not just a monument. But fairy tales in the Presley world were fleeting. Elvis's addictions deepened. His absences lengthened. The tours, the films, the entourage, the pills, they built walls that affection alone could not scale. Priscilla, still young and unformed in many ways, found herself lonelier inside that famous house than she had been moving from base to base as a child. In 1972, she made the hardest decision of her life. She left. Their divorce was finalized in 1973. The headlines called it tragedy, betrayal, the end of the fairy tale. But Priscilla understood it as something else entirely. The first decision she had ever made entirely for herself. 4 years later, on August 16, 1977, Elvis died. He was 42. And the girl who had walked into his world at 14, wide-eyed and searching, was now a widow in everything but name, standing at the edge of a legacy so vast it would consume the rest of her life. She was 31. And the heaviest chapter had yet to begin. The world expected Priscilla Presley to disappear. That was what women in her position did in 1977. To grieve quietly. To accept the pension of widow's sympathy. To fade into the background of someone else's story. She had been Elvis's wife, ex-wife, mother to his only child. In every sentence describing her, his name came first. His gravity pulled every definition of her back into orbit. But Priscilla had spent her entire life defined by other people's expectations. And somewhere, amidst the wreckage of loss and a grief that was raw and complicated, nothing like the neat sadness the public imagined, she made a decision that surprised everyone who had underestimated her. She decided to build something of her own. Her first and most consequential act was not for herself, but for the name she carried. When Elvis died, the financial reality behind the myth was devastating. The estate was in crisis. Mismanagement had carved away what should have been a vast fortune. Lisa Marie faced inheriting ruin rather than royalty. Priscilla stepped in. Working alongside financial advisors and Elvis Presley Enterprises, she made the bold decision in 1982 to open Graceland to the public. It was not universally celebrated. Many in the inner circle saw it as desecration. The private made spectacle. The sacred made tourist attraction. But Priscilla understood what they did not. Elvis belonged not only to family. He belonged to the millions who loved him. And that love, honored properly, could sustain his daughter's future. She was right. Within a year, Graceland generated millions. Within a decade, it became one of America's most visited private homes, second only to the White House. The girl who had arrived with nothing but longing saved an empire with nothing but clarity. But Priscilla was not content to be only the steward of someone else's legend. She became an actress. Not in the token, charity cast way that famous adjacent women sometimes accept minor roles. She committed. When cast as Jane Spencer in the Naked Gun series starting in 1988, audiences expecting fragility found something else. Wit. Timing. A lightness that suggested a woman rediscovering herself and delighting in her own capabilities. The films were wildly successful. Her performances praised. And for perhaps the first time in public life, people laughed with Priscilla Presley rather than simply watching her with reverence or pity. It was a revelation, not just for the audience, but for her. She pursued more projects. Became a businesswoman with sharp instincts. A philanthropist with focused commitments. And a mother determined to give Lisa Marie a life apart from the suffocating weight of the Graceland myth. It was not a perfect chapter. No chapter in Priscilla's life ever was. Romantic relationships after Elvis carried their own pain. Most notably, her long involvement with Michael Edwards, a chapter marked by private wounds she bore with quiet dignity. Publicly poised. Privately scarred. But what defined this era was resilience. Here was a woman who had every reason to become a relic, accepting the museum piece role fame assigns to the women left behind by legends. Instead, she built a company. Saved an estate. Raised a daughter. Forged a career. And emerged from the long shadow of the most famous name in American music as a formidable woman in her own right. By the time Lisa Marie reached adulthood, Priscilla had become, to many watching closely, not merely Elvis's ex-wife, but the very reason his legacy survived. She gave the king his immortality. What she could not have known, and what no love or will could protect her from, was the price immortality would exact. There is a grief with no name. It is not the grief of losing a parent, which follows the cruel logic of time. Nor the grief of losing a spouse, which carries the shape of a shared life. It is older and more violent than both. The grief of a mother outliving her child. The grief that inverts the natural order. A wound no years, no wisdom, no love, no faith can fully heal. Priscilla Presley has known that grief twice. And that sentence should stop the world for a moment before it moves on. The first blow came in the summer of 2020, amid a global pandemic that had already made the world fragile and surreal. Benjamin Storm Keough, Lisa Marie's only son, Priscilla's grandson, a young man of 27 with his grandfather's bone structure and the family's fraught legacy, died suddenly. The family's statement was brief and private, as always. But the loss fell on Lisa Marie with a force those close to her described as total. She adored Benjamin. He was her shadow, her echo, the fragile bearer of beauty and burden whose love felt dangerously precious. She never fully recovered. Those who knew Lisa Marie after Benjamin's death spoke of a woman fundamentally changed. The genuine laughter that had always surprised people grew rare. The light in her eyes, the fierce fire, dimming behind a grief she carried everywhere but rarely spoke of. She channeled the pain into music, just as her father channeled the inexpressible into song. She wrote songs about Benjamin, loss, and the exhausting burden of bearing the Presley name in a world that treats it like a crown without ever asking what it weighs. Priscilla watched her daughter carry that weight and could not lift it. That helplessness, watching a child drown in grief while standing on the shore, became its own quiet torment. She was present. She was loving. She was everything a mother could be. And it was not enough. Because some losses are simply too vast for love to contain. Then January 2023 arrived. On the 12th, Lisa Marie Presley attended the Golden Globe Awards, visibly moved by Austin Butler's portrayal of her father. She laughed, animated, alive. 2 days later, she suffered cardiac arrest. She did not regain consciousness. She was 54. Almost the exact age her father had died. The parallel made people reach for words like fate, and find none comforting. Priscilla was at her side. No words can capture that room. No camera lens can hold the weight of a mother watching her only child slip away. The last living thread to Elvis Presley quietly unraveled. Her grief belongs solely to her. No statement, no press, no confession could contain it. It resides in a private country of sorrow too vast for language. Her public statement was brief, devastated. She described Lisa Marie as the most passionate, strong, and loving woman she had ever known. She asked for privacy. For a short while, the world respected it. Then, as always, life moved on. But Priscilla could not. Would not. Because moving on after losing your only child and your grandson in less than 3 years is not resilience. It is survival. It is continuing to breathe while your soul learns a new shape. Friends who saw her in the months after Lisa Marie's death described a woman quieter than ever, not broken, but irrevocably changed. Like a landscape forever altered by floodwaters. Still standing. Still recognizable. But rearranged to the core. She returned to Graceland. Where else could she go? The house that had been Elvis's, then the estate's, then Lisa Marie's, now hers alone. Every room a photograph. Every hallway an echo. Every carefully preserved artifact a reminder that those she cherished most are gone. At 80, Priscilla Presley stands in a house full of ghosts she loved. And she stands. Because that is what she has always done. Not because grief made her strong. Grief does not work that way. But because standing is all she knows. It is the one thing no one ever taught her. And no one can ever take away. She stands. She carries it. she endures. The weight of two graves follows her everywhere. Grief, for most, is a private war. For Priscilla Presley, it became a public battle almost immediately. Before the ink on Lisa Marie's obituary dried, the legal machinery kicked in. Within weeks, a courtroom battle over Elvis Presley's estate unfolded in the public eye, with Priscilla at its center. The dispute stemmed from Lisa Marie's trust, the financial foundation governing one of America's most valuable legacies. In 2016, amendments removed Priscilla and Lisa Marie's former business manager as co-trustees, naming Lisa Marie's son Benjamin and daughter Riley Keough instead. After Benjamin's death, Riley became the sole trustee. Priscilla contested the amendment on technical grounds, arguing improper execution. Behind the legal language was a mother's heart. She had watched her daughter suffer, seen grief carve deep wounds, and could not accept the estate being controlled without her voice. The world watched a family fracture beneath grief. She was cast alternately as power-hungry or fiercely protective. But truth, as always, was far more human. Riley Keough, Lisa Marie's daughter, Benjamin's sister, the granddaughter who carries the family's talent in her own career, was no villain. She was a young woman also devastated by loss. Two women grieving deeply, caught on opposite sides of a legal battle. Not a tale of greed or malice, but of love expressed in irreconcilable ways. The dispute settled privately in May 2023. Terms remain confidential. What became public was a mutual commitment to protect the legacy. Priscilla expressed love for Riley. Riley praised her grandmother warmly. Whether the family relationship fully healed is theirs alone to know. This battle exposed the precariousness of the Graceland legacy. The estate generates tens of millions annually through tourism, licensing, and intellectual property. But fortune alone cannot protect itself. It demands vigilance, management, and ceaseless defense from legal, commercial, and cultural threats constantly circling such a treasure. Priscilla has known this since 1982, when she first opened Graceland's gates to the public. Her gamble, that love, properly honored, could be sustained, was proven right. She spent 40 years proving it. But at 80, the energy required is a different kind. The legal fight cost her not money but precious time, peace, and the quiet grief needs, things conflict destroys. She fought for Graceland when it faltered. She fought for Lisa Marie when the world watched. She fought for the trust when paperwork told a story she could not accept. At 80, Priscilla Presley is still fighting. Those who love her ask. Priscilla watches with equal parts pride and sorrow. Pride that the legacy endures. Sorrow that those she most wished to share it with are gone. At 80, Priscilla Presley is not fading. That word does not fit her, not now, never. She is present, deliberate, formidable in what matters most. But she carries a weight unyielding. A silence that can never be filled. A door at Graceland that opens every morning on a legacy she built, and a life she outlived. She was the girl who walked into his world, and never fully walked out. She is the woman who stayed when everyone else left. And when the tourists have gone, the gates close, and Graceland settles into night's quiet, Priscilla Presley remains. The last guardian standing. It speculated. It reduced a woman of extraordinary survival to a series of photos ripe for comparison and cruelty. Priscilla has rarely addressed this publicly. But when she does, she reveals a profound understanding of the traps fame sets for women. The expectation that women, especially those who have been harmed, must remain eternally presentable, eternally recognizable. She was 14 when that trap first closed around her. She has been navigating it for 66 years. What photographs cannot show is the physical reality of being Priscilla Presley at 80. The fatigue grief inflicts on body and mind. How loss dims eyes, alters posture, changes the nature of a smile once easy. Friends describe a woman who moves more carefully, tires more quickly, needing a stillness she once never wanted. She speaks candidly of loneliness, not the performative kind but the real, deep solitude of a woman who has outlived her husband, daughter, and grandson. A woman attending events alone, surrounded by people who love Elvis. Searching for faces that saw her